A few thoughts on good governance and innovative initiatives. A few of the small things that have been attempted in the past 3 decades or so of my service in Tamil Nadu Police. And first of all, what is good governance? Good governance, as you can see, is the opposite of what we usually encounter in our country. Social exclusion, inefficiency, red tape, corruption. And the best principles of good governance are contained in acronym BEST. B for bridge building, E for empowerment, S for service commitment, and T for transparency. But as Peter Drucker said, innovate or perish. But I have turned that conjunctive logic of Peter Drucker into innovate and perish. Because if you innovate in the governance sector, either you would be caused to perish or your idea would perish. So whichever is earlier. And you see, when somebody comes up with a bright bulb idea, a brilliant idea, the top management will say, let us run it up the management chain. And you can see the kind of instruments that will be used to cut it to pieces. And that's what happens for the innovator. Now, what is an innovative idea? It needs to be useful, it needs to be cost effective, it needs to be simple, and it should be easily understood. So it's a tall order to get an innovation together. But what's the philosophy of good governance? Nobody has put it better than a man called James Yan, or Jimmy Yan, a Chinese immigrant who persecuted in China. Went to the Philippines and did a hugely successful literacy campaign. His passion for innovation and good governance was in the realm of literacy. And he felt that educating the people is the greatest service that he can do. For the information of Mayappan, education is what people do for you. Learning is what you do to yourself. And I would request you to focus on learning. And most of the learning you will find in Cambridge, as I did at LSE, would not be in classrooms, but walking down the streets of Cambridge, walking in the streets of London. And Jimmy Yang said this: go to the people, live among them, learn from them, love them, serve them, plan with them, start with what they have, build on what they have. Not a showcase, but a system pattern. Not to conform, but to transform. So what you learn should not condition you, but rather it should spark you. It should spark you to think of how can I do it better? How can I change things? And when I joined the police, this was the question that I asked myself. That I know that the police has a deeply negative image. How do I transform that image? I kept asking myself that question a million times. And one day, in a flash, the idea flashed in my mind, start Friends of Police, FOP. How many of you have heard of Friends of Police? Thank you. And so we in this country face a huge, issue of human resources not being adequately optimized, not being adequately trained. But that could be the greatest resource if we have an innovative spirit. And that's why when you go out to Cambridge, you got to think about what can you do best back home that could transform the legal regime, that could make it more client-friendly, people-friendly. Because as they say, the law is an ass, because it doesn't change. And education is all about changing an ass into an asset. And you're already half an asset. Only the rest needs to be done. And the absence of good governance leads to issues like this of extremism and regionalism, of division, of inequality. And you see now what is happening, the crisis of ISIS. One of the greatest, man-made crisis, because of the vacuum caused by leaders, global leaders. And that's all a sign that people have not understood what is the purpose of governance. What is the purpose of governance? Is it just to be in seats of power, just to justify one's existence in power, but is it to deliver good service? Is it to deliver good governance? So the best principles I've explained, and here you see an example of it. A young man called Armstrong Pammy. He built single-handedly with the help of funds mobilized through social media, Facebook primarily, a 100-kilometer long road in a remote part of a hill state, which connected his district with Nagaland, Assam, and the rest of the state. He raised funds from the Facebook, and he was given the name Miracle Man by, grateful fellow villagers. He's a 2009 batch Indian Administrative Service, the service to which Mr. Billipa sir belongs to, and he was the first from his tribe. Now, when I joined the police, I had just, recovered from a major, crisis in my life when I was injured walking a few feet ahead of Rajiv Gandhi as a young ASP. And I said, what can I do to make a difference to the police? I have been spared for a purpose. And as I cogitated and kept asking myself, how do I transform the police image? How do I transform the working of the police? This idea flashed, the FOP of Friends of Police. As I spoke about it in various fora, I found thousands of people who were gunning for it, who said, we want to be Friends of Police. People from all walks of life, men, women, children from minority communities, trooping into police stations saying, we want to be a FOP. And I understood that we had bad policing because people did not understand the police. Because worldwide, even at the LSE, I understood that there is a certain antipathy against the police. Because the police is always involved in negative interventions of enforcing the laws, of preventing, people from breaking the laws, of arresting and remanding. And therefore there is a need for having a powerful positive movement. And I said that any member of the public who is not involved in any civil or a criminal case should be empowered as a FOP. Because the Constitution, which gives us the power for governance, actually starts with these words, we the people of India. And therefore this power actually belongs to the people, and we only need to share the power. So FOP is a formula for sharing both power and responsibility with ordinary people. Now in my current assignment as ADGP Economic Offences Wing, we said that it's not enough to investigate cases after people go through a scam. We need to be proactive to prevent a scam. And so we created another avatar of the FOP, which is known as FOP Scam Buster, where we enrolled retired, financially savvy employees of banks, insurance sectors, SEBI, students, and so on. And they disseminate awareness among the gullible public to educate them, and to prevent the commission of economic frauds. We have identified symptoms of these fraudulent schemes, that they offer a very huge interest rate, which would not be feasible for any business concern to pay. Then we created an intelligence unit which goes into the marketplace and finds out which new establishments have come into being, which could be fly-by-night operators. So we work on this precept of prevention is better than cure. Social media like Facebook, Twitter are used to disseminate awareness. There is a separate mobile number, email ID, and even a Facebook account that has been opened. Now FOP has had a huge inspirational effect in the sense that it has inspired large numbers of youngsters to venture out, to do things which they would normally not do. Here we have the commander of this group of 50 Friends of Police, who in the month of July, to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Friends of Police, decided to create a new world record by cycling to every district headquarters, every city in Tamil Nadu, and carrying his messages of FOP. And that Mahindran, the commander, had a few years ago did another Limca record of covering the entire coastal borders of India, right from Kanyakumari to Leh Ladakh, and then all the way to Arunachal Pradesh, and then all the way back to Chennai to Chidambaram, where they belong to. So this shows the kind of, inspiration that government service can provide to citizens if we share power with people. And they were received at all the district headquarters by police officers who provided, them hospitality and welcomed them. Now, you would have read in the news recently or just yesterday that some 6 tea shop owners have been arrested for providing tea in, deficient tumblers or in a different glass. And while I was writing social justice, I said, let us address this problem by starting where it began. I followed the idea of the Boston Tea Party, and I said we'll start social justice tea parties. And therefore we created this platform by which our inspectors went to villages, 37,000 villages, which is about 40% of the total number of, hamlets in Tamil Nadu, and invited 50 members of the public, 50% of them being belonging to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, and 50% belonging to the majority community. And then they were, given the awareness about what are the laws against this kind of practices, untouchability, and what are the schemes that government have for the empowerment of the weaker sections and so on. And this has been covered in books by scholars from the US. That is a very innovative program, and in fact it led to even the very political Tea Party movement in the United States a little later. A whopping 1.9 million people in 37,000 tea parties had participated in this program all across the state. I already mentioned about the current programs we have adopted to prevent people becoming victims of Ponzi schemes and fraudsters. In addition to this, I have a passion for innovation thanks to probably the exposure that I had, and which you're going to have now in Cambridge when I went to LSE, of trying to bring together academic concepts and practice, which you said is your dream. And one of the ideas a big idea that I have developed is called economics. The Indian education system has a glitch that it doesn't train young people to be innovators. It trains them to be status quoists. It trains them to just, learn by rote and not to be creative. And therefore I came up with this concept of economics, which means pursuit of excellence with a passion, with an obsession. And automatically the nomics meaning numbers. You increase your yearning or passion for excellence, automatically your pace of learning will be faster than the rate of obsolescence of knowledge, and eventually your earning, both in terms of satisfaction, goodwill, and in terms of numbers, will be far greater. And then the concept of X factor. Now X is something all of us, were playing with when we were in school. Now measure your IQ. Suppose I was to draw a triangle. IQ meaning innovation quotient. And on one side, if X is there, and the other side it is 5 and 3. How would you find X? Normally what would you do? You would do that hypotenuse square minus the other side and you will get X. But one innovative student just put a circle around X and said, here it is. So that is innovation. So I use this idea of X factor to create a security concept. And that security concept can sensitize any person, or not just a police person, who is deployed on security duty. You assume that a factor X is present. Automatically, you would be sensitized. Your consciousness of a threat would be heightened, instead of assuming that it may or may not be present. And it could be a multiple of X factors, like it happened in the 9/11 attack or in the Mumbai 26/7 attack. Then another concept is state assurance. This is a unique concept not practiced in any country, any nation, any time. Here the state government, I sent a proposal to the Chief Minister saying the state has a duty to restitute any loss of property in a crime. Because the citizen lives in a state, obeying the laws, paying the taxes, So whose duty is it to protect the law, protect the property of the citizens? Is it not exclusively the duty of the state? First question to Mayorman. Or is it not? But it is an inchoate, silent provision that neither judges nor lawyers nor citizens are aware, and therefore they do not agitate the matter that the state should restitute the loss if the police do not detect and recover it. So the idea being far ahead of its time, it has not yet gained acceptance, though it has been published in a few insurance journals. Now, in order to address the issue of innovation, you need to have a thought process in place. The current thought process is too conservative, too conventional. You are so boxed in by conditioning of parental expectations, of peer expectations, the pressure of competition, and the need to score high in the papers, in whichever university you are studying in, that you cannot think out of the box. And therefore, I've created a thought process called EQ thinking or equilibrium thinking. There's a website called eqthinking.com. Be at it, beat it, which is a 24-hour thought process where it's so simple that you can internalize this thought process to beat stress and to be more creative. And practicing that for nearly 20 years, that led me to this huge concept of Economics, which is published on this link, managementexchange.com. So this is just to give you an inkling of the possibilities that there are before you, of the learnings that you can bring back, the huge impact that you can have, not just in law. See, as a police officer, it's an oxymoron, as Mr. Baliappa says, to be a thinking policeman. But it's not as if even a lawyer needs to be concerned only about his domain of law. You could come back with technology solutions. You could come back with an interconnection of ideas from different domains and disciplines. Don't just restrict your focus and vision on your legal department. You could make an impact in politics or in leadership or in terms of NGO activity. And so the sky is not the limit. So once again, I thank Mr. Baliappa for giving me this platform, this wonderful opportunity of sharing these ideas. I thank the British Council, who have always been, patrons of positive ideas and a great country for innovation. And I wish you all the